What's up? I am Runs with Alpacas, and I have another deck profile. This one is for Salamangreats. This deck has been out for a few weeks now, and it has made its impact on the meta already. It's one of the best decks in the format, sheerly because of how consistent it is. It doesn't put up super overpowering monsters, but its ability to go +4, +5 with having a negate and a couple of destructions on your opponent's turn is really, really impactful. And it's just super consistent and a lot of fun to play. My build is fairly generic. I have some choices catered to how I like to play it, but without further ado, I'll get right into it. First of all, I play 3 copies of Salamangreat YUGIOH. Very obvious choice here. It's probably the best Salamangreat monster overall, and it's definitely the best Salamangreat monster in the main deck. You can special summon this anytime a Salamangreat monster is sent to the graveyard. That includes effects like Foolish Burial, that includes detaching Xyz materials, and that includes interactions on your opponent's turn that would send your Salamangreat monsters to grave. So you can special summon this during either player's turn, and when you do that, it's a Foolish Burial for any Salamangreat card in the deck, which is really important. Next, I play 3 copies of Salamangreat Spinny. Spinny, you discard to boost a Salamangreat by 500. That's not the important part of its effect. The important part is that you can special summon this from grave if you control a Salamangreat monster, and it'll be banished when it leaves the field, but you'll usually go into a Mirage Stalia with it, so it'll just go to grave actually. So super important for your rank 3 engine. Next, I play 3 copies of Salamangreat Foxy. This is the preferred normal summon in the deck, at least for how I like to play. When you normal summon it, you excavate the top 3 cards of your deck, and if you excavate a Salamangreat card, you can add it to your hand. That's really important, because this deck thrives on its consistency, so seeing your good Salamangreat cards as quickly as possible is really, really important. Alternatively, you can use Foxy's other effect to special summon from grave if you discard a Salamangreat and control a face-up spell or trap. You can only use either of those effects once per turn though, unlike Spinny and Gazelle, which are, you can use either effect, both of them in the same turn. Foxy you have to choose, so you do have to be careful with how you use your Foxies. Lastly, for the Salamangreat monsters, I play 1 Falco, 1 Jaguar. They do the same thing, essentially they special summon themselves from the graveyard. However, Falco does that by returning a monster to your hand, and Jaguar does that by shuffling a Salamangreat monster from your graveyard into the deck. Something to worry about with Falco, however, is the monster has to go to your hand, so it has to be a main deck monster that you bounce, otherwise it will not summon itself. You can target an extra deck monster, but it'll just return to the extra deck and Falco will not summon, so it's something you have to be careful about. And then Falco can also set a spell or trap when it leaves the field, but again, these 2 are once per turn effects, and you have to choose which one you use in that turn. You can't use both, so a little unfortunate. Next, I play 3 copies of Lady Debug. This is also a good normal summon. However, with Lady Debug, you are more susceptible to cards like Ghost Ogre, ruining your plays, so you have to be careful with things like that. I don't main deck Called by the Grave, so I am a little more vulnerable to hand traps in my opening turn, but Lady Debug searches for almost any monster in your deck, so there's no reason to not play it. You can argue that 3 isn't necessary, 2 might be a better number, but for now I'm playing 3 and I really like that. Next, I play 2 copies of Backup Secretary as a level 3 extender. It is searchable off of Lady Debug. I play 2 copies because I'd rather not have to search it off Lady Debug. I'd rather just see it in my hand and search another Salamangreat piece that I need with Lady Debug. So just 2 copies of that. You can only use its effect once per turn to special summon anyway. I also play 2 copies of Crusadia Reclusia to round out my level 3 extenders. I don't like Psychic Wielder too much. I haven't personally played it, but it seems to only be good for synchro plays, which I don't think really fit into the extra deck all that well. And I've had other players I know confirm that, basically saying they've tested their wielders and they don't like them so much. So I've always opted for Reclusia from the beginning. It's spot removal if you really need it. It's a fire that you can recycle back to your hand, and it's another level 3 extender, so not much to dislike about it. It really just boosts the consistency of your deck. Next, I play 3 copies of Effect Veiler. I like 3 copies of Effect Veiler for the fact that you can use its effect multiple times in a single turn. So if one of them gets stopped, you have another one to back it up. You can also use it while your opponent controls a Danko Sekka, which if you were playing Infinite Impermanence and you had set it, you might not be able to do. I also do not own Infinite Impermanence, so that's kind of the reason why I'm maxing out on Veiler, just for consistency and being able to play on my opponent's turn. It's really important. Next, I play 2 copies of Ash Blossom. I think 2 is a good number for this deck. It's not something you necessarily need to see, and it's kind of not a card that's too impactful on the meta right now. Dangers are, by and large, the most popular draw engines for multiple decks, and Ash Blossom doesn't do a whole lot against that. To combat those decks, you need Droll and Lockbird, but I'm not main decking those. I think 2 Ash is good. It synergizes with the deck, being a fire that you can recycle. So, can't go wrong with any number of Ash, but I just like 2. The last monster I play is 1 Artifact Scythe. This has really cool synergy with the deck. You can set it as a spell trap, as it says on the card, and you can pop it with your own Roar, which you should be able to get turn 1. So Scythe is really cool, locks your opponent out of the extra deck. It's an auto win against a lot of decks, so no reason to not play it at 1, I think, in a deck that really can make a lot of use out of it. That's it for monsters. For spells, I play 3 copies of Salamangreat Circle. It's your searcher for the deck. Its other effect to protect the link monster for a turn is not super impactful. It can come up as games go on for a longer time, but its main purpose is to search for a Salamangreat monster, which is really, really good. Next, I play 1 copy of Will of the Salamangreat, 1 Salamangreat Sanctuary, and 1 Fusion of Fire. I think 1 of each of these is fine. Definitely never play more than 1 Sanctuary. I'm thinking about playing more than 1 Will of the Salamangreat because if my opponent ogres my Lady Debug, it would be nice to be able to continue to play, and Will of the Salamangreat is one of the best ways to do that. It's a better option than Salamangreat Mirror, which I think is not too impactful of a card. Sanctuary, you only want to search with your Banelinks, so you don't want to play more than 1. And Fusion of Fire is good at 1 to OTK on the 3rd turn of the duel if you go first, or to just OTK if you're going second. Next, I play 2 copies of Foolish Burial Goods and 1 copy of regular Foolish Burial. Not too many people like Foolish Burial Goods. I can see where they're coming from. You don't necessarily need to use it. The reason I like it is because I want access to the 2 Salamangreat traps as quickly as possible. Ideally, having them both in the same turn to maximize my disruption against my opponent, and I think this is a very good card for allowing you to do that. Especially since Salamangreat Roar can set itself from grave, so being able to Foolish Burial both of them with the goods and with the Gazelle, I think is a really strong play. And then the regular Foolish Burial is just a very good starter card for this deck. Not much to be said about that. And the last spell card I play is 1 Upstart Goblin. I don't love Upstart Goblin. You do have to hold it until you search for your Sanctuary, but this deck is so consistent, I don't see a good reason to not make it even more consistent. I might cut this for another Will of the Salamangreat at some point, but for now, it works good enough. For traps, I'm playing 1 Salamangreat Rage and 2 Salamangreat Roar. I choose this ratio because of my choice to play Foolish Burial Goods. Otherwise, I would only be playing 1 and 1 of each. The reason I'm playing 2 Roar and the 2 Goods is so that I can use Roar's effect to set itself from the graveyard, because when you do that, it'll be banished when it leaves the field. So I want to have 1 Roar for early game and 1 Roar for late game, because I will be losing one of those copies. And you don't need more than 1 Rage. If you can use its effect once, you're in a pretty good position to take control of that game. And the last card I play in the deck is 3 copies of Artifact Sanctum, just to get to the Scythe as quickly as I can. I don't have Trap Tricks, nor do I really see room for Trap Tricks in my build of the deck. I'd have to change things up quite a bit. But for now, the 3 Sanctums and the 1 Scythe work perfectly fine. It's just an absolute blowout when you can draw into this card. Assuming you don't draw into your Scythe as well, but if you do, you can pop it with your own cards and it's not too big of a deal. That's it for the main deck. For the extra deck, it's very standard. I'm playing 3 copies of Salamangreat Baylynx. When it's link summoned, you search for the field spell, and in grave, it serves as some protection by banishing it. I play 3 copies of Salamangreat Sunlight Wolf. This is absolutely mandatory. It's worth the $10 price tag it's at right now. I was lucky enough to get all 3 of mine on the sneak peek date, so that was really cool. Allows you to recycle a fire monster from your graveyard, add it back to your hand, and when you use himself as its own material, you can add a trap card, Salamangreat spell trap card from your graveyard, add it to your hand. So really, really good card. I play 2 copies of Salamangreat Heatleo. I actually prefer to play the original art rare version over the ultra rare alternate art, but Heatleo is really good going second or in the later stages of the duel to get rid of your opponent's back row and stuff like that. And for the rest of the link monsters, I play 1 Hita, 1 Nightmare Phoenix, and 1 Borreload. Hita's really good in the mirror match. I don't think it's good enough to warrant being side decked, so I choose to just main deck it. Phoenix could be replaced by a Unicorn or even a Update Jammer, but being a fire, it synergizes really well. There's times when you can only go into fires, so it's nice to have something to go into. And then Borreload is, I think, better than Boral Sword in this particular deck, mainly just because you don't need Boral Sword. You have a built-in OTK with your Violet Chimera, so you don't really need it. For Exceeds, I play the 2 Mirage Stalio. Summons a Salamangreat from deck when you detach a material, and when it leaves the field as material for a link summon, you can bounce a monster on the field. Then I play 1 copy of Abyss Dweller. I don't think Baguska is as impactful right now as Abyss Dweller, especially against the danger-heavy decks. So I think 1 Abyss Dweller is a better call. And lastly, I played the 1 Violet Chimera. This card's amazing for OTKing after you have established control of the board. Or even if you're going second and you don't have control of the board, you can clear it and go into Violet Chimera and attack for a whole bunch of damage. So that is the entire deck profile. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope my choices make a little bit of sense. There are some cards that definitely I don't love them, but for the way I play, I find them to be kind of necessary. This is a very standard build. There's not much variant with Salamangreat right now anyway. Maybe you can do Metal Foe stuff, True King stuff, but for the most part, pure Salamangreat seems to be the way to go. Granted, we're only a few weeks into having the deck, so who knows what's going to come of it. But I think this deck is very good. Having a accessible deck for the player base is a good thing for the game, I think. And it's a lot of fun to play. It's very easy to learn. And I'm excited to play it at future events. So, hope you enjoyed it. See you later.